All right, this is CJ again with the GOAT Sports Talk. Of course, going over the Central Division, starting off with the Indiana Pacers. As we see, we know that the big move was made by Indiana to move Paul George away and send him over to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now they have pretty much have been dismantled from the team that they've had. The only original player that's on the team that was, one of the top teams in the league, going back to the early part of LeBron James going to the Miami Heat, is basically Lance Stevenson, who was actually brought back late last season in order to basically give them a more of a competitive chance to compete in the playoffs, which we know how that ended. And we know that now they're pretty much rebuilding stage at this point. It's a very, amazing thing. That's what's happened with the Indiana Pacers. It just proves, like we've talked before, that there's been teams that were actually very good, but LeBron James, whatever team he has been on, whether it's been the Cleveland Cavaliers, the first go-around, the Miami Heat, and now the second go-around with Cleveland, he's pretty much dismantled franchises. And this is a testament to his greatness. I mean, where's the Roy Hibbert sighting? There's no more Roy Hibbert, who everybody, some of the people are saying, oh, LeBron has problems against these big, tall, long players. He's gone. He's out of there. David West, of course, was a good player, but he's, now a player on the bench of the, Golden State Warriors. Of course, we know he's now a champion. But, I mean, this team is a former shell of itself. And what they got in return was Victor Oladipo, who didn't even have, a great showing with the Oklahoma City Thunder. He signed a huge deal. They said that he was going to be the backcourt mate for, Russell Westbrook, and nothing really happened out of that. And when looking at this team, they have some young, talented players, but how many of these can you say can, even in the East, as of right now, can make an all-star team? Al Jefferson is past his prime. Darren Collison, is a good player, but he never was all-star caliber player. Corey Joseph, a good player, role player. But when you go down the list, nobody. And that spells to me, outside of maybe Miles Turner could potentially be a guy, but when you look at it, it's all pointing to a very bad season for the Indiana Pacers, probably amongst their worst in a very long time. So pretty much, I expect them to be amongst the bottom, of teams in the league this year. Moving on to the Chicago Bulls. We know there was a big move. Jimmy Butler was traded. We know that Dame Wade was bought out. They've decided to move forward and just start to build their young nucleus. We know as part of the trade, one of their main pieces they got was Zach LaVine, he's coming off a major, knee injury, and is not going to be ready to start the season. So as of right now, you got, Robin Lopez. Who else do they got? I mean, I'm looking at their team, and it's like, what are they really working with this season? I mean, what are they really working with this season? I mean, I think the biggest thing, if you're a Chicago Bulls fan, is you really got to look at the development of your younger players. So you got to hope that Cameron Payne this year develops very well. Zach LaVine, you hope that he comes back 100% physically fit and is, good to go, and he shows that he could be, a potential all-star caliber player. They really have high hopes for him. You're hoping that Lauri Markkanen has a great season, as a rookie, and he has a lot of promise. I tell you that. He's highly skilled. He's fairly athletic. So, I mean, you got to get him as much playing time. This is where a coach just says, the organization, the GM, everybody just allows these young players to get as much playing time in and to basically, develop themselves very, over the course of the season, and hope that can carry into next season, because there are no playoff hopes with this team, this season. Nikola Mirotic is a very good player. I think that they would, still want him to be on the squad. So at this point, if you're a Chicago Bulls fan, I don't know what to say to you. You just got to pretty much be patient, because I don't believe there's going to be any big time free agents that are going to be looking to sign in Chicago anytime soon. Okay, so going on to Detroit. Detroit has some young players. They've actually had some trades which could fare well for them, especially the Avery Bradley trade. I like that move for them. We know they have Andre Drummond, who's playing, the center position the old school way. And he's not as skilled as like a Karl Anthony Towns or a DeMarcus Cousins. So you're getting really just a traditional big man from him, and I don't know how that fits in today's NBA unless you are able to surround him with very top level perimeter talent. Which I think that an old school throwback center can still work as long as you're surrounding him with shooters and guys that can kick and drive. I think you're still can have those type of players, but you can't really truly build a system around them the way you used to. Now, some of the players that they have that I like, Tobias Harris, I like him, as a player. I think as a role player, as a guy that's a slasher, he still can get the job done in that regard. Reggie Jackson, he, of course, wanted to leave Oklahoma City. He believed that he could be a better player away, and he's actually a very good player. So I'd like to see kind of where he goes in this next go-around. With the way the East is and the amount of talent that has left the East, he is a potential, depending on how the team plays overall. Reggie Jackson could be an all-star this year. Okay, so that's, one of my, look out for it type things going on this year. So, you got some talented players. I mean, I like some of these guys. I like Luke Kennard. I like Boban Marjanovic. So, I mean, this is a nice little, unit that they have. Some young players, some young talent. You got Beno Ubrick, who's a very, savvy guard. He's a veteran. So that will give them some steady play at that position. So that could be helpful for the overall, benefit of the team to have a guy that can control the ball, doesn't turn the ball over a lot. And you got some, some guys that can play, some defense on this team. So I kind of like what I see here. I'm glad to see Eric Moreland, finally on a roster. He came into the league. He was injured. He was with Sacramento. Of course, it didn't work out with them, but it looking like he has the potential to make the team this year. And I'm, hoping that he does. He's a local Houston talent, and he has one of the most beautiful women on Instagram, Lolo Woods. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure she would want him to have a good season as well. But for the most part, man, I mean, this is pretty much what it is, man. I think that they may be able to sneak in the East. It just all is going to depend on, the play of a few different players. Avery Bradley, how he plays with Andre Drummond, Reggie Jackson, and, pretty much I think the rest of the team, we're going to have to see how the role playing goes with their team. And, I think that they could make it. I just don't know. But the East is at the bottom part of the East is damn near up for grabs. I believe that, especially the spots 5 through 8 are pretty much spots that, a lot of these teams, if you have fairly decent talent, they could probably sneak in there. Moving on, Milwaukee Bucks. The future number one player probably in the NBA post LeBron may be very much Giannis Antetokounmpo, also known as the Greek Freak. I mean, if you got a player like this, there's no doubt about it that you are going to be a competitive team in the foreseeable future. So I like what they have there. The biggest question to me is going to be Jabari Parker. Jabari Parker had a knee injury. He's had a couple of injuries now in the early part of his career, and it's just been amazing because I've always said it, that Jabari Parker is the better coached, driven version of probably Carmelo Anthony. I think he has the ability to be among the top pure scorers in the league, and I believe he has a drive to be great as well. So, I mean, I think that if he can get back to that level, I think his ceiling is Carmelo Anthony level ceiling. I think he's that good of a talent that he could be as good as a prime level Carmelo Anthony. And I just think that it's just the injuries have just slowed down his development. If he can get back to that level of where he looked like he was heading into before the injury, along with Giannis taking another step forward in greatness, I think that's a good tandem to have out east for the foreseeable future. I like some of the rest of their squad. Thon McKeer, Hopefully he develops a little bit more this year and takes the next step in his development as a player. I like some of their role guys. I like John Henson, his length. I like Matthew Dellavedova, a very good on-the-ball defender, can hit the open three. So when you look at this team, Chris Middleton, Greg Monroe, I mean, this team's Tony Snell's an underrated player. I've always liked Tony Snell. I think he's one of those guys that, on a good team, you have him coming off your bench in that second unit, and he's a very good player. So Teletovic, another good one. I like this team. I mean, Jason Terry is very old, but I like that he's on that team. He gives them a veteran leader that basically can show them how to prepare, how to basically, key in, how to basically, be able to take on the big moments. So I really like this team. They are a dark horse team to me, as far as in the East, to probably be in the top 3 in the East after, pretty much, Boston and the Celtics. Of course, we know within that, the third spot is going to be probably, among that mix-up is going to be the Toronto Raptors and the Washington Wizards. So, but I think that there are dark horse to get that third spot, depending on the things that we talked about. So, I mean, this is going to be good. Oh, Malcolm Brogdon. Malcolm Brogdon was pretty good in spots last year. Also, be on the lookout for him. I like their talent. I like where they're going with this team. I think that they may be one other player away, an all-star caliber player away from being able to really be in that elite level in the league, especially when you have a monster like Giannis. Giannis is probably, a guy that can really, truly be like, no one thought that there would be a guy that could be on a LeBron level, because LeBron is considered a once-in-a-generation level player, but here comes Giannis out of nowhere, and he may be the next, LeBron, in the wing. So, I mean, he's an amazing talent. Everybody around the league, all the top players talk about how great that they think Giannis can be in this league. So, moving on, of course, you can't talk about the Central Division these days, unlike the Jordan days. You can't talk about the Central Division unless you're talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers and LeBron James. All right, we know the deal. The King and his trusty Cavaliers loyalist. Look up the history about the Cavaliers and you'll know what I'm talking about. So this team is probably the deepest team in the league. They have 2 starting units pretty much on this team. And, Isaiah Thomas coming back from injury, I think they should take their time. I believe they have enough on their team to allow IT to basically be 100% before he comes back, which reports are that he may come back by December, maybe by so-called Christmas game. So we'll have to wait and see. But this team that they have currently right now is a very good team. I think that they actually came out way on top on the deal. We'll talk further on about this whole situation, why you see LeBron with a big smile on his face this season, because he knows his future is going to be bright, barring injury, and some of the things that they're able to do, the flexibility that they're going to have in the end of the season if he stays is going to be amazing. This team, let me go down this list of why I like this team a lot. Jose Calderon, we'll just start there. We're just going to go down the list. Jose Calderon, a veteran point guard, doesn't turn the ball over, can hit the open 3. You need a guy like that. Jay Crowder can play the 3, the 4, and can guard multiple positions. A very good 3-point shooter. Athletic, big, strong, young, talented. Come on. I mean, Channing Frye, stretch the floor. He's going to do what he needs to do. Jeff Green, athletic wing, has still a lot to prove as a player. He still has a little bit in him. He's 31 years old. He may have one more, decent deal left in him. Maybe 15 to 20 million a year in today's NBA may be what he can get as he moves forward. So this is a year for him to prove that he's able to still, be a player that can contribute to a team. John Holland, we don't know as far as his status with the team if he's going to make it. Of course, we know about LeBron James, the four-time MVP. He very good chance he could get his fifth this season. So we'll see about that. Going down, Kyle Korver, one of the best three-point shooters statistically in NBA history. So you need, as LeBron always says, he needs his shooters. Kevin Love, nothing needs to be said, a perennial all-star talent, a guy that can stretch the floor with his three-point shooting. He has an inside game as well, a very good passer, very high basketball IQ, a player that you definitely would want. Of course, the last two NBA Finals, he has not performed very well. So I think he needs to redeem himself this year. We'll see how that goes. We know Seti Osman was part of the trade that occurred. He came in as part of the deal, so I don't know if he's going to make the team. We'll have to wait and see. Another standout pickup was Derrick Rose. I think this was a huge pickup for them. Derrick Rose looks healthy. Like I said, if you've seen previously in some of my stuff that I've talked about Derrick Rose, about the reason why he's just a steal is because he had an amazing season. 18 points a game, 47% from the field, all the while New York had all types of drama going on. And I believe he looks even quicker and stronger this season than he did last year. And I think his confidence is continuing to rise up. And I think that he is a great addition. He should be, no doubtingly a very good starting point guard for the team while IT is out. I mean, this is a massive pickup right here. If he can stay healthy, and I think he doesn't have any fear that his body's gonna, break down on him. He's been very good with his offseason workouts the last few years, and I think that's been helpful. And he's still only 28, 29 years old. He's still young, still healthy as of right now. I like that move. Iman Shumpert, he has had some inconsistency at times, but I think that he is going to show hopefully an improved offensive game as it looked like he did throughout the preseason. J.R. Smith, he's a streaky shooter, but when he's hot, he's really hot. And he can also defend a couple of different positions. He's coming off the bench now, which says a lot about their depth. But he was a former Sixth Man of the Year, so I think that, and he's been a six-man candidate of the year for multiple seasons in the past. IT, of course, we know one of the top scorers in the league, clutch player, a guy that can get his shot off either off the dribble or in catch and shoot situations. He's a very intense player, very active on offense. Of course, defensively, he will be somewhat of a liability, but overall, the team does have some good defenders that can help him when needed. Tristan Thompson, he was a former double-double guy who basically did not live up to expectations during the playoffs, and I believe because of his performance, I believe that was one of the reasons why they could not remain competitive. And now he's on the bench. At this point, in the league, they need shooters, and because of the fact that they are not going to have Isaiah Thomas, and with Derrick Rose not really being much of a three-point shooter, Isaiah Thomas, and with Derrick Rose not being much of a three-point shooter, they are going to need another shooter on the floor, and that's the reason why he's on the bench, and therefore they've moved Crowder in his spot to stretch the floor for them. And then we talk about the pickup with Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade looked very good this offseason. He looks very slim and fit. In the preseason, he looked very, explosive at times. And, he's actually been showing confidence in shooting the three-point shot. So I think I like this pickup. And with him being around LeBron, I think it's going to remind him again of how great he could be. And I think that LeBron is going to hold him accountable to those, workouts before games and making sure that they're, well rested and healthy and eating right. I think that's going to be good for him to be around, his friend LeBron. And you're going to see I believe this season you're going to see a few flashes of Flash this season where you're going to really realize wow, they really made a good pickup with Dwayne Wade. And I think that Dwayne Wade, being the gamer that he is, if they get to the finals, he's going to have a couple of very big games. He's going to relish being back there, and I think his competitive juices are going to get flowing in some of these big matchups as you get through this season. So it's going to be an interesting thing. Of course, Ante Zidic, I don't know if he's going to still be on the team, so we don't know what's going to happen with that. But as far as the guys we know that's going to be on the team, Tristan Thompson, even coming off the bench, is a very big deal to have a guy that can get you a double-double and can play good D. He's a very good help rotation defender as well. So I like this team. Of course, as you know, If you've seen the other one, I believe that they're going to win the East. I think that, they should be over 60 games this season winning the East. And if the season goes where they see that they may be able to win the best record in the league, I think they'll push for it because they want to have that kind of advantage going up against Golden State potentially if they meet in the finals. So that pretty much right now wraps up the Central Division. We'll of course be continuing on with the series of each team and each division as we lead up to the opening night of the season on Tuesday, October the 17th.